Hey guys, today special occasion. Again, Frank Klose, who's a familiar voice and face to people listening here, but of course today rushing to get back for the Phillies. The Phillies game was postponed. We are at Game 4 of the World Series in Philadelphia. Frank, how are you feeling? Just off the top here.
I'm exhausted, but it's good exhausted though, right? I mean, this has been something. I mean, man, I wish I had a job where I could just like take a week or two off of work just to do all the baseball these couple weeks. But no, the energy's high. People are excited. These are some late games, of course, but this is what people have been waiting for. So, man, try to enjoy every minute you possibly can. And I know there's a lot of tired people in the Philadelphia area.
I've told my wife, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I've been waiting for this again since before I even knew you existed. That's how long, since the Phils have been in these kind of games. I've been waiting for this. This kind of run is even more special in my opinion because you're totally the last seed. It's an amazing situation that we're in here to even be talking about this.
I thought the Phillies would benefit from making the playoffs, even if they squeaked in. But I think what happened was the Phillies squeaked in, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, we're a playoff team, so let's roll." So it was like any of the September hangovers from previous years. If that was getting into their head, they got in and they were like, "Well, wait a minute, we're a playoff team, so let's play like one." So it was.
Now they've come up so big in these huge moments, and now that is only to your point, and now it's only been that feeling is only stronger, deep down, and then they come back to Philly. They get to play in Philadelphia at most two more, but they're at least two more games, and you get to play in front of the fans who are this means everything to them. I mean, people of other teams kind of, undersell that, but that means so much when you're an athlete or anything. You need people to tell you, I believe in you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the mental part of this game is something that I think is really missed in the analytic area. These are real people with real feelings and real anxieties and intimidations. And I had a really good conversation on Monday, with former Philly Neil Walker. And he was talking to me over this other project I was working on about COVID-19 shutdown. And I reached out to him because he's all my Philly connections are busy right now. So, but since he's retired, he was a great conversation. And one thing Neil was talking to me about was in 2020, not having the fans behind you and what that means to the player, almost psychologically, spiritually, right?
Yes.
That is a big element of the game, and that was missing in 2020. So, reflecting upon that, it seems very, very clear just what this crowd means. And let's face it, since then, the crowds haven't been as big in Citizens Bank Park. I'm sure some people are still struggling financially from the pandemic. Some still have anxieties being in public and being in crowds. And, I think all those things combine to a smaller attendance than you're used to. But man, they're showing up for the big stage here. So, and the resale prices are just insane on World Series tickets. We don't see them that bad in other cities. So, and of course, there's been Phillies fans that flew down to Houston for games 1 and 2, and I'm sure we'll go back. Well, I don't think they need to go back, but hopefully they don't have to go back to Houston. But yeah, the Phillies fans are,
if necessary, they will.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that won't be necessary. But I think that just the backing of the fans has given them such an extra boost. And even Nick Castellanos, he didn't really totally get the fans, admittedly, I believe he was talking to a radio station in Chicago, the ESPN station there, ESPN 1000. And he basically said, "Oh, I finally get it." So, even someone excited to come to Philadelphia and still had a positive view of the fans. And he really understood, when it was time to rise to the occasion.
Yep. So our guy, you've created this great. If you don't follow over on Twitter, you really should follow, of course, Frank, and of course, mention Pod. But I've been sharing it, 3 or 4 times. Well, during the game last evening while Ranger Suarez was playing, it's something that Frank created. It was the Red Ranger with the. It's hilarious. I mean, but Ranger was on last. He just looked. He looked so calm and collected, and looked like he really had everything you know, the moment wasn't too big for him, is what I'm trying to say.
No, listen, I'm a big Ranger Suarez fan, and I always have. I just thought that the way he goes about his business is just what you said, cool and collected. And I don't know if you remember when he came in to close out the NLCS. I tweeted out a picture of a cucumber. It's like, here comes Ranger, cool as a cucumber. You know, to me, it was the moment I really, really caught that. You might remember last year there was a game Spencer Howard started, and he got beaten up kind of early-ish, and Ranger ends up coming in with the bases loaded. And it was a game that ultimately really mattered for the Phillies to win, as well, of course, they missed the playoffs last year,
Yes.
but they stayed in contention. I thought it kind of recovered a little bit because of him. And there was just that one moment where, coming in with the bases loaded in Miami, he enters the game. It might have been like the second or third inning. It was really early, clearly a mess. And the way he went about it was just kind of like, okay, I got to get to work. So what do I need to do? Like, he literally calmly said that. And so he's focused on the game plan. He's focused on execution. And the only time I saw him sort of get a little rattled was that first game against the Braves. And then after he got over that, he was like, wait a minute, that's not me. And we've seen laser focused Ranger. And in that game, when I saw him get, work out of that bases loaded jam, and the Phillies came back to win, that kind of showed me something about him. And you saw him there move to the back of the bullpen. And you know what? He's not the stereotypical closer, but again,
No.
he used to come out and just say, all right, what do I got to do to get these outs, and executes. And so they made him the starter. That's been his approach as a starter, right? What do I need to do to get these outs?
You think how soon will he be available? I think he did 5. He got through 5 last night.
Yeah, he was in the 70s to maybe 80 pitch mark. It was
Yep.
clear he was losing a little steam. I would imagine he takes today off, and I think tomorrow, if they need him, they'll use him. And still use him game 7. So I mean, if there's a game 7, you'll see Aaron Nola, you'll see Ranger Suarez, you'll see whoever else. But
Yep.
I think that to try to close out tomorrow, if the Phillies are trying to win, I could see him, especially if they win again with the Aaron Nola start. I can see him coming in and giving them some outs for game 5.
So Nick Castellanos, who's been carried by the Angels in the outfield recently with some of these plays, is that what we're at this point? Should we just continue to hope for now that he's going to rise to the occasion with his glove, and not, when he comes up to bat, just hope he doesn't hit into a double play? Is that kind of where we should set expectations?
Well, look, let's be honest. Other outfielders get to the ball quicker and don't need to dive. So, he is what he is. I actually don't have a problem with him being out there in the field. He doesn't have the range. Brandon Marsh being there has helped a lot,
Yep.
because the range to his right, you've got extra help now, and
Yep.
having that steady defensive presence in center field. So I'm not too worried about him being a butcher. I mean, he's made some nice plays. That's absolutely true. Nice plays for him. But his bat, I think you're going to see years of these 5 total that the Phillies signed him for, that he's going to be more like himself from last year. I don't think he's as poor as
Yep.
this year.
That's right.
Offensively, I think you're going to see a rebound. And I will say this too: like, the opposing pitchers aren't stupid; they know that too. And so even if he's scuffled a little bit in 2022, the pitchers on the mound know what he can do. So nobody on the Astros right now is taking him for an easy out. And he will get some hits. They will be helpful to the Phillies' victory. I think. So I would not count him out. And a lot of people forget that when he was locked in early on in the season, the other offensive pieces were struggling, and he was the only one hitting. So I mean, he was hitting 300 most of April. So he I wouldn't write him off. Again, he's underperformed compared to what you would have expected him to do, but I really don't think that's enough to write him off. 222 in this postseason, of course, is not a great average, but people know what Nick Castellanos can do. And hey, 2 out of 9, that's what 222 is. He'll get 9 at bats today and tomorrow. That means he'll have a couple hits, so they could be big hits.
They could, and with the guys around it, that's what's so cool about this. I say it again and again is that, it really is a team. Baseball is the ultimate team sport. And if they do what we're hoping that they do over the next few days, it's the ultimate team. People carried, we had that whole discussion about how, one guy had June, July, August, September, carried the way. And then Bryce, who came back from his injury in September and wasn't so hot, really has just more than come on in the playoffs. It's been amazing.
Yeah, you knew he would. I mean, now when he came back to the major leagues after his injury, you kind of thought that he was rushed. I mean, he was rushed, right? I mean, but it was at the point where when he was just obliterating AAA pitching, and they're just like, okay, well, there's no point in you being there.
That's right.
You might as well just come up and figure it out. So, but once he did, I mean, this is Bryce Harper, and just my dad was talking to me about this today. He's like, just imagine if this wasn't the year they added the DH, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what would this team be if Bryce Harper just couldn't have played? And they said, all right, we'll get you the surgery and then focus on 2023. He hung in there, and this is the 2022 Phillies are a thing because of Bryce Harper.
That's right. So is he World Series MVP if we get there?
Well, there's still a lot of series left. I mean, the 2-1 lead's nice.
Well, we'll see how much there is left.
I want to see who else steps up in these two games. I think the MVP is a long way off from being decided. One thing you mentioned, team sport. I've seen contributions from a lot of players on the team in their two victories.
Right.
So there's no, in my estimation, yeah, Bryce Harper set the tone with that 2-run home run yesterday, but there's not one standout to me that I think is far above the rest. And I know that's kind of hard to say because
Right.
he's been amazing, right? But I want to see some more separation there. So let's see who's JT is the story of their first victory, right? So I could easily see them giving it to JT. So but the next 2 victories will write who's the MVP.
So looking forward a little bit past that, win or lose, do you think that they'll continue to double down on letting Stott continue to grow as a hitter, which I've fully seen that I think Bryson Stott is going to be a good player, but do they move forward with him as the everyday shortstop, or do they try to upgrade with a Trey Turner as we've talked about before?
Well, Bryson Stott is not leaving this Phillies lineup, but he's not leaving this Phillies infield. Might he switch over to second base? I think that's a real possibility. Gene Segura, free agent to be. I'm pretty sure Gene's not coming back. Just with his age, and he makes a decent salaried $15 million a year. I think he's going to be one that leaves as a free agent. So second base or shortstop is open next year, and I think Bryson Stott will be one of them. And one thing that a lot of people have observed. In fact, former NFL player Earl Watford, who we follow each other on Twitter and talk Phillies, but Earl Watford, let me see if I can find his quote from today on my Twitter feed. But he said, right here you go. I'll just read Watford's tweet. He said, Scott cannot get another hit and I'll be okay because he stresses pitchers out every at bat. Love to see it.
Yes.
And so, there were a couple times where he and Segura back to back running up a pitch count really helped the Phillies of gain control of a game. Now, of course, I'm forgetting which pitcher it was against, but he fouls off a lot of pitches.
Verlander?
I think it was Verlander. So, man, living and dying by every game. It's like it feels like 4 weeks ago. But no, but Stott is good, and I think when Stott starts making a little bit more contact, watch out. The fact that he can foul off so many pitches, eventually he's going to start hitting them square, and they're going to start going in for hits. So, no, I think he's got a bright future. I think the Phillies did strike on that first round pick, and so I expect him to be in the Phillies infield. Could be at second base, but I think he's going to be there.
Okay. How many are we hoping for? We're talking about potentially a game 5 being a closeout. We were planning for Noah Syndergaard, Thor to come through. How many are we hoping for from Thor though?
So if you win the Aaron Nola game tonight, then you basically kind of have, I would say, all hands on deck. There's an off day after game 5. So if today goes according to plan, now you could use Alvarado today and tomorrow. You can use Dominguez today and tomorrow. Why? Because neither of them pitched yesterday.
That's right.
So, and then they'll have the day off to recover before 6 if you need it. So you don't have any qualms about pitching the two of them today and pitching the two of them tomorrow. Then you add on Zach Eflin, who can give you an inning or two. You add on, you keep going down the bullpen. Maybe David Robertson can give you an inning. I know he's not as sharp as the others, but he's still somebody that can give you an inning or two. And tomorrow you could go to Ranger for an inning or two, or some outs if you need it. So, I think they would love to see him kind of do what he did last round. Maybe give them 3 innings, get through the lineup once ish, and I think they'll be satisfied if that's what they get out of him. And Kyle Gibson came in for an inning; he was okay. Brogdon's looked a lot better
Yes,
lately.
he
I
has.
was I was worried about Brogdon pitching; he's been okay. So
Yep.
Bilotti has been decent.
Yep.
So I think if today goes well, you get a good start out of Nola. If today you can go Nola, Dominguez, Alvarado, and that's all you need, then man, tomorrow everybody's on deck. You go for the kill.
It won't, only by like the real baseball head folks, but the ability to use a Gibson in the last game, that was a few free innings of letting your pitchers on the and letting your bullpen rest and not have to use any of those innings up. And if we win, that'll be like the 30th thing that people talk about, but I think it's it's huge for this series.
And honestly, Gibson has a nice track record. I know the thing about Gibson this year, he was either feast or famine, and I think towards the end it was a lot of famine, and maybe he was a little tired. I mean, but let's face it, he's made 2 appearances in this entire postseason, so he's probably well rested. He's probably in a good spot to come in if he needs an inning or two. I wouldn't shy away from Gibson, even though he did have some rough out. It's amazing though how of course, it is the playoffs, right? So it's almost like nobody wants to dare go anywhere near there. But look, even Nick Nelson gave him some clean inning, a clean inning yesterday, right? So they'll be okay. I think especially if they take tonight's game, they show up tomorrow. I think the key is to try to get an early lead off of Verlander. Verlander's someone. No, I can't remember. I didn't look at the numbers after his last start, but his ERA was in the high fives in his
Yep.
World Series career. You got to hope that he's going to be usual Justin Verlander in the World Series. But if you can get him early and you can set the tone like Harper set the tone yesterday with an early home run, or say what you will, or as they did it against Atlanta, scoring a few runs early, I think that will go a long way.
If the series go, if they take care of it, if the Phillies take care of business tonight and it goes 3-1, the series is over. I don't care, unless they're getting Satchel Paige or Sandy Koufax out there. I'm not worried about Justin Verlander. They're going to tee off. That stadium is going to implode that
Yeah,
evening.
the one thing you can fault Dusty Baker for now, Dusty Baker is someone that anybody who watched baseball forever, they had massive respect for.
Yep,
But the thing he seems to be guilty of this series is trusting his starters too much
that's right.
and letting them go too long. And they have a fantastic bullpen, so I think either he's going to learn that, or if he's going to be what he's been and say, "Oh, Verlander, I trust you," even though he was clearly leaking oil last time. That hurt the Astros. So we'll see
And
if he's.
McCullers looked very vulnerable early, and then he gave up 5, and then I think he pitched him another 2 innings after he gave up 5.
There was no need for that. I mean, other than I don't know. Other than he felt he needed to save the bullpen he's never going to use. I don't know. I'm just a little surprised by that. And
Thanks,
McCullers
Dusty.
is a good pitcher.
I'm thrilled about it. I mean, Dusty Baker for MVP.
Well, I don't think he's that bad, but I think he definitely gives his starters a little too much rope there. So I would think the Phillies would try to take advantage of that. And honestly, their bullpen. If that's in his head now, though, and he starts pulling, if he starts pulling starters early, well, then maybe they can stress out that bullpen. But the bullpen's very deep. Phillies are really. What was it? All but one run this World Series they scored against starters, right? So that was the story of their victories, right? They were able to. What was it? Real Muto had the one home run against a reliever, but the 5 were off of Verlander in the first win, and then the win last night, all 7 were against McCullers.
I'll take it take runs anyway,
Yep.
So what are you thinking now? Are you what's your prediction? Not what you're hoping for, obviously. What we're all hoping for the same thing, but what do you think is actually going to happen?
Well, I think the key is Aaron Nola showing up and giving them a big start. I mean, I think if Aaron Nola gives them a big start, this thing's over. I'd be a little, there's a huge difference between 3-1 and 2-2.
Yep.
Huge. This is such a pivotal game. And I know people love to throw statistics. I think it's like 69% of teams that win game 3 win the World Series.
Yep, that's right.
But to me, this is way bigger. Like, we need to see Aaron Nola, who goes out and at least give them 5 or 6. I mean, they could get away with 5. I mean, I think the way Rob Thompson's managing, I could see him pulling Nola after 5 if he sees and smells the victory, smells the path. But yeah, the ideal solution for today would be Nola, Alvarado, Dominguez in whatever order. Again, he pitches to the matchups. But if the Phillies, I'll say this: if Nola comes up big today, I can see the Phillies winning the World Series. A lot hinges on it.
So the Phillies win in 5. When would the parade be?
I don't know. Monday?
They would push it out a couple days, give people some time to.
I don't know. They do it on a weekend. I could see it happening Monday.
Okay,
but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
No,
I've told my college students there will not be class that day. So, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
No, and luckily we're not. We're not throwing a ball. We're not swinging a bat this evening. We are just all the good vibes towards our guys. Well, Frank, of course, again, great having you. Great to be able to talk about the Phils yet again, and potentially, maybe not talk to you before we do a thing that we'll talk about the parade another time. So, Frank, tell the people what you're working on and where we can listen in and follow along.
Well, you can follow me at Twitter at Frank Klose. That's Close with a K. And I'm on 97.3 ESPN in South Jersey. You can download our mobile app, 97.3 ESPN. And check out my podcast, Powder Blue Podcast. So that's my Phillies
Jeff
podcast.
Mosher.
And what's that?
That's with Jeff Mosher.
With Jeff Mosher. Yep. So right. You can get that anywhere you find podcasts. But love it if you subscribe to the Powder Blue Podcast. Jeff and I will definitely be recording again soon.
Cool. Well, thanks so much. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Matt.